Dr. Hannah Kim walked into the Grand Hall of the Galactic Council with steady steps. Her heart was beating fast, but she kept her face calm. Around her, hundreds of alien delegates sat in their floating seats, their eyes fixed on her small human form. The massive chamber stretched up toward a dome of stars, making her feel tiny and alone. She had asked for this meeting 3 times before being granted permission to speak. Now, as she stood at the center of the hall, she could hear the quiet whispers starting among the crowd. The humans in the gallery looked uncomfortable. They knew what she was going to say, and they did not want to be connected to her words. Hannah pressed a button on her wrist device. A huge holographic image appeared above her head. The alien delegates leaned forward to look at it. The image showed a massive creature floating in space near the Kepler mining colonies. Its body was dark and twisted, covered in what looked like both metal and flesh. Long tentacles reached out from its sides, each one bigger than a battleship. The creature was known throughout the galaxy as the Devourer. "Honorable council members," Hannah began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber, "stand before you today to speak about the being you call the Devourer. For 6 months, this creature has attacked our outer colonies. It has destroyed 12 mining stations and consumed the crews of 47 ships. You have called me here as an expert in xenobiology to help you understand how to destroy it." Ambassador Taman of the Centauri Coalition nodded his blue-scaled head. "Yes, Dr. Kim, we need to know its weak points. How do we kill this monster?" Hannah looked around the chamber at the expectant faces. Some were human, but most belonged to the dozen alien species that made up the Galactic Council. The Altarians, with their feathered crests, the rock-like granite people, the floating energy beings from Vega, all of them wanted the same thing. They wanted her to tell them how to destroy the Devourer. "The creature you want to destroy," Hannah said slowly, "is not a monster. It is my brother." The silence that followed was complete. Not a single whisper could be heard in the vast chamber. And like a dam breaking, the noise began. Laughter started from the Centauri section, spreading quickly through the hall. The sound was not kind. It was the laughter of beings who thought they were hearing something completely impossible. "Your brother?" Ambassador Taman could barely speak through his laughter. "Dr. Kim, your brother would be human. That thing is 3 kilometers long and made of living metal. Have you been working too hard?" More laughter filled the chamber. Commander Su Yang of the Defense Fleet, a tall woman with sharp features, stood up from her seat. "Dr. Kim, with respect, grief can make people see things that are not there. Perhaps you should take some time to recover from your loss." "I am not grieving," Hannah said firmly, "and I am not crazy. The being you call the Devourer is my brother, Ginho Kim. 23 years ago, he volunteered for an experimental program. The program was designed to create soldiers who could survive in any environment. He was exposed to an alien artifact that changed him into what you see now." Director Minho Park, the head of the human delegation, stood up quickly. His face was red with embarrassment. "Dr. Kim, you are speaking without authorization from the Human Colonial Authority. These claims are not supported by any official records." "Because the records were classified," Hannah replied. "Project Metamorphosis was hidden from the public. They told our family that Jinho died in a training accident. But I have spent years researching what really happened. The creature that attacks your colonies is not evil. It is confused and in pain. It is trying to communicate, but no one will listen." The laughter was getting louder now. Some of the alien delegates were making jokes in their own languages. The energy beings from Vega were pulsing with colors that Hannah knew meant amusement. Even some of the humans in the gallery were shaking their heads and looking away from her. "Communication?" Commander Su Yang asked. "Dr. Kim, this creature has killed thousands of people, tears apart ships with its bare tentacles. It consumes everything in its path. What exactly do you think it is trying to communicate?" Hannah changed the holographic display. Now it showed the pattern of the Devourer's attacks over the past 6 months. "Look at the pattern," she said. "It only attacks military targets. It avoids civilian ships. It has never attacked a medical facility or a school. And look at this." She pointed to specific locations on the map. "It always leaves escape pods. Alone, it could easily destroy them, but it does not." That proves nothing, Ambassador Taman said. Animals sometimes show patterns in their hunting behavior. This is not an animal, Hannah insisted. This is a human being who has been transformed by alien technology. The artifact that changed him came from outside our galaxy. It was designed to alter living beings, to make them into something else. But inside that changed body, my brother is still there. He is still human. The chamber erupted in louder laughter. Some delegates were now openly mocking her. The granite. People made sounds like rocks falling, which was their way of showing they thought something was ridiculous. Several human officials moved toward her, clearly planning to escort her away. "You want proof?" Hannah shouted over the noise. "Then listen. To me, the Devourer will not attack civilian targets because my brother would never hurt innocent people. It studies your military technology because it is trying to understand how to defend itself. And it keeps moving toward the core worlds because it is looking for something. It is looking for home." Director Minho reached her side. "Dr. Kim, that is enough. You are embarrassing our entire species with these fantasies." "They are not fantasies," Hannah said, as security officers began to surround her. "And when your fleets fail to destroy him, when your weapons prove useless against him, remember what I told you today. The monster you fear is a man who just wants to come home." Ambassador Temin called for order in the chamber. The council will now vote on the military response to the Devourer threat.
Ow!
Those in favor of deploying the combined fleet to destroy the creature. Hands, claws, tentacles, and energy pulses rose throughout the chamber. The vote was unanimous. Every single delegate voted to destroy the Devourer. "Motion carried," Taman announced. "The combined fleet will be assembled immediately. Dr. Kim, you are dismissed from your position as Xenobiology Advisor. Your security clearance is revoked." As the security officers led her away, Hannah turned back to address the chamber one final time. "You are making a terrible mistake. My brother is not your enemy. But if you treat him like a monster, you will create something far worse than anything you can imagine." The great doors of the chamber closed behind her. The last thing she heard was the sound of the delegates discussing fleet positions and weapon deployments. They were planning to destroy the only family she had left, and they thought she was crazy for trying to save him. But Hannah knew the truth. Somewhere inside that twisted form of metal and flesh, her brother was still alive. And when the fleets arrived to destroy him, they would learn that some monsters are not born evil. They are made that way by the people who refuse to see the human inside. Admiral Jae-yoon stood on the bridge of the flagship Destiny, watching the massive fleet spread out before him through the view screen. 200 warships from 12 different species floated in formation around his command vessel. At the sight, filled him with confidence. Never before had the galaxy united such a powerful force against a single threat. "Status report," he ordered his second-in-command, Captain Min Seo. "All ships are in position, Admiral," she replied, checking her display screen. "The Centauri heavy cruisers are on our left flank. The Altarian fighter squadrons are ready for launch. The Granite people have positioned their siege ships at the rear. Every species has sent their best vessels and their most skilled crews." Jaeon nodded with satisfaction. The combined fleet was the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. Each ship carried weapons capable of destroying entire cities. Their combined firepower could crack planets in half. Surely no single creature, no matter how large, could stand against such might. Sir called out Lieutenant Haiyu from the sensor station. "We are approaching the Kepler 442 system. Long-range scans show the target is hiding in the asteroid belt." "Hiding," Jaeon repeated with a cold smile. "Good. It knows we are coming. It knows it cannot escape." He turned to address the entire bridge crew. "Remember, we are not here to capture or study this creature. We are here to destroy it completely. The safety of billions depends on our success today." The fleet moved deeper into the system, their sensors scanning every piece of space debris. The asteroid belt was thick with floating rocks, some as large as moons. It was the perfect place for something to hide, but their combined sensor arrays were the most advanced in the galaxy. Nothing could stay hidden for long. "Contact," Lieutenant Haiyu announced suddenly. Massive biomechanical signature detected. Distance, 50,000 kilometers enclosing. On the main screen, the space between the asteroids began to shift and move. What they had thought was empty space was actually something else entirely. The Devourer uncoiled itself from around a cluster of asteroids, its 3-kilometer length becoming visible as it moved. The creature was even more terrifying than the reports had described. Its body was covered in what looked like living metal that shifted and flowed like liquid. Organic tubes and cables ran along its sides, pulsing with strange energy. Dozens of tentacles, each one hundreds of meters long, reached out from its main body. At the front, what might have been a head was covered in sensor arrays that glowed with unnatural light. All ships, Admiral Jayon broadcast across the fleet. Target acquired. Begin the attack. The combined fleet opened fire as one. Plasma. Cannons from the Centauri ships sent streams of superheated energy toward the creature. The Altarian fighters launched quantum torpedoes that could punch through any known armor. The Granite people fired their massive railguns, sending projectiles at near light speed. The space around the Devourer lit up with explosions and energy beams. For several minutes, the creature disappeared behind a wall of fire and destruction. The fleet poured everything they had into the attack. Weapons that could destroy entire fleets were focused on a single target. The asteroid belt around them was turned to dust by the overflow of energy. Target status, Admiral Jayon called. Out. Scanning through the interference, Lieutenant Hayo replied, Wait. ... I am getting readings. The target is still there, sir. It appears to be ... undamaged. As the weapon's fire stopped and the energy clouds cleared, the Devourer became visible. Again, it hung in space exactly where it had been before, completely unharmed. But something was different. Its surface was no longer the same dark metal. Parts of it had become transparent, allowing the energy beams to pass right through. Other sections had developed a mirror-like quality that reflected the plasma blasts back into space. Impossible, Captain Minseo whispered. But nothing can adapt that quickly. The Devourer began to move, not away from the fleet, but toward it. Its tentacles spread wide, and Admiral Jayon could see new structures growing along its length. Systems that had not been there moments before were emerging from its body. Evasive maneuvers, he ordered. All ships scatter. But the creature was faster than anything that size should be. It flowed through space like liquid, its body bending and twisting in ways that defied physics. As it moved, it began to return. Fire. The weapon systems on its body launched projectiles that seemed to be made of the same adaptive material as its hull. The first ship to be hit was the Centauri cruiser Starfire. The projectiles struck its shields and began to spread across the energy barrier like a living thing. Within seconds, the shields collapsed, and the strange substance began eating through the ship's hull. The crew had barely enough time to send a distress signal before their vessel was consumed entirely. What is that thing made of? Captain Minseo asked in horror. It is learning, Admiral Jayon realized. Every time we hit it, it adapts. It is studying our weapons and developing counters. The battle continued, but it was no longer the easy victory the Admiral had expected. The Devourer moved through. The fleet, like a predator among prey, seemed to know exactly where each ship would be before they moved there. When the Altarian fighters tried to attack from behind, the creature sprouted defensive turrets that tracked them with perfect accuracy. One by one, the ships of the combined fleet were destroyed or disabled. The creature's attacks were surgical in their precision. It targeted weapon systems first, then engines, then life support. It was not just destroying the ships, it was studying them, learning how they worked. Sir, Lieutenant Hayu called out, her voice shaking. The creature is not just adapting its defenses, it is adapting its attacks too. Each time it hits a ship, it learns something new about our technology. Admiral Jayon watched in growing horror as the most powerful fleet in galactic history was torn apart by a single opponent. The Granite people's massive siege ship, Pride of Stone, was wrapped in the creature's tentacles and slowly crushed. The vegan energy ships found their power drained away by some unknown force. Even the advanced human vessels with their experimental shields were no match for the Devourers' constantly changing attacks. "Admiral," Captain Minseo said quietly, "we need to retreat. If we stay here, we will all die." Jayan looked at the tactical display. Of the 200 ships they had started with, fewer than 60 remained functional. The creatures showed no signs of damage or fatigue. If anything, it seemed to be growing stronger as the battle continued. "All remaining ships," he broadcast, "with a heavy heart, begin emergency retreat. Fall back to the outer system." As the surviving vessels fled, the Devourer did not pursue them. It simply floated among the wreckage, its tentacles reaching out to touch the destroyed ships. Admiral Jayon realized with growing dread that it was not just studying their technology, it was absorbing it. The journey back to the core worlds took 3 days. When they arrived, Admiral Jayon faced the most difficult report of his career. The combined fleet, the greatest military force in galactic history, had been defeated by a single creature. Worse, the creature had learned from the encounter. It now possessed knowledge of every weapon system, every defensive measure, every tactical doctrine in the galactic arsenal. "The creature is not just powerful," he told the emergency session of the Galactic Council. "It is intelligent. It learns from every attack, adapts to every strategy. We threw everything we had at it, and it treated our weapons like teaching tools." The council chamber was silent as the implications sank in. They had not just failed to destroy the Devourer, they had made it stronger. And somewhere in the back of the chamber, a few delegates began to remember the words of a human scientist who had warned them this would happen. Dr. Hannah Kim had tried to tell them the creature was not a mindless monster. She had begged them to try communication instead of violence. But they had laughed at her, dismissed her as crazy, and sent their fleets to destroy what she claimed was her brother. Now, as the reports of the fleet's destruction spread panic throughout the galaxy, those same delegates wondered if they had made a terrible mistake. The monster they had tried to kill was not just alive, it was learning, growing, moving toward the core worlds with new knowledge and new power. The war they had started was far from over. It had only just begun. Captain Yunji found Dr. Hannah Kim on Research Station Eco 7, a forgotten outpost floating in the empty space between star systems. The station was old and barely functional, its corridors dimly lit and filled with the sound of failing air recyclers. It was the kind of place where the galaxy sent people it wanted to forget. Hannah was working in the station's small laboratory when Yunji arrived. She looked up from her microscope as the door opened, showing no surprise at seeing a military officer. Her face was thinner than it had been 6 months ago, and her eyes held a hardness that had not been there before. "Dr. Kim Youngji said, stepping into the cramped room. "I am Captain Youngji of Galactic Intelligence. I need to speak with you." "Me guess," Hannah replied, returning to her microscope. "The fleet failed. The creature is still alive. And now, everyone remembers the crazy woman who tried to warn them." Yoonji shifted uncomfortably. The doctor's words were too close to the truth. The combined fleet suffered heavy casualties. "We need your expertise to understand what we are facing." Hannah laughed, but there was no humor in the sound. "My expertise? 6 months ago, the council called me delusional. They said I was grief-stricken and mentally unstable. They took away my position, my security clearance, my life's work. Now, you want my help?" "The situation has changed," Yoonji said carefully. "The creature's behavior during the battle was not what we expected. It seemed to learn from our attacks, to adapt in ways that suggest intelligence." "Intelligence," Hannah repeated. "You mean it acted like a person instead of a monster?" "Exactly like I told you it would." The captain pulled up a chair and sat down across from Hannah. "Dr. Kim, I have read your file. Before this incident, you were one of the most respected xenobiologists in the galaxy. Your research on adaptive organisms was groundbreaking. The council made a mistake in dismissing you?" "The council made a mistake in trying to kill my brother?" Hannah said sharply. "How many ships did you lose? How many people died because you refused to listen?" Youngji was quiet for a moment. 63 ships were destroyed. Okay, over 40,000 personnel were killed or missing. The remaining fleet barely escaped. Hannah closed her eyes and took a deep breath. 40,000 people dead because the council was too proud to consider that a human might be right about something. The council is willing to listen now, Yanji said. Director Minho Park has authorized me to offer you full restoration of your position and rank. You would have unlimited access to research facilities and military resources. All we ask is that you help us understand this creature. This creature, Hannah said, standing up and facing the captain. His name is Ginho. He is my brother. He is not a thing to be studied or destroyed. He is a human being who needs help. Then help us help him, Yunji said. If you truly believe he can be saved, then work with us. But you must understand, Doctor Kim, that the creature is moving toward the core worlds. Billions of lives are at stake. Hannah walked to the small window and looked out at the stars. I will help you, but I have conditions. I want complete authority over any contact attempts. No military interference, no weapons fired unless I give the order. I want full access to the classified files on Project Metamorphosis. Some of those files are above my clearance level, Yunji said. Great. Then get someone with higher clearance, Hannah replied. If you want my help, you will give me everything I need to understand what was done to my brother. 3 days later, Hannah stood in the secure briefing room of the Galactic Defense Command. Around the table sat the most powerful people in the galaxy. Director Minho Park looked older than she remembered, his face lined with stress. Admiral Jaeon sat quietly, his proud bearing replaced by the haunted look of a man who had lost everything. Even Ambassador Temin from the Centauri Coalition was present, his blue scales dulled with fatigue. Dr. Kim, Director Park began. We have granted your requests. The Project Metamorphosis files are being declassified as we speak. You have full authority over contact protocols. Now please tell us what we are dealing with. Hannah activated the holographic display in the center of the table. Images appeared showing a young human man in military uniform. This is my brother, Jinho Kim. 23 years ago, he volunteered for an experimental program designed to create super soldiers. The goal was to produce personnel who could survive in any environment and adapt to any threat. The image changed to show scientific diagrams and test results. The process involved exposure to an alien artifact discovered in the Andromeda Galaxy. The artifact was believed to be a biological enhancement device left behind by an ancient civilization. Initial tests on laboratory animals showed remarkable results. Subjects developed incredible strength, speed, and most importantly, the ability to adapt their bodies to counter any threat. What went wrong? Admiral Jaeon asked. Nothing went wrong, Hannah replied. The process worked exactly as intended. The problem was that no one understood what the artifact really was. It was not just an enhancement device. It was a transformation tool, designed to change organic beings into something else entirely. The holographic display showed medical records and brain scans. During the experiment, Jinho's body began to change at the cellular level. His DNA was rewritten, his nervous system expanded, his entire biological structure altered. The scientists thought he was dying, but he was actually evolving into something beyond human. The records show he died during the process, Director Park said. The records were falsified, Hannah replied. 8. The truth was too dangerous to reveal. Jinho did not die. He transformed. His body became something that could survive in space, adapt to any attack, and learn from any encounter. But the process was traumatic. He lost his human appearance, his ability to communicate normally, and much of his connection to his human memories. Ambassador Temin leaned forward. Are you saying the creature retains human consciousness? I am saying that somewhere inside that transformed body, my brother is still there, Hannah said. He is confused, frightened, and alone. He has been wandering the galaxy for 23 years, trying to find his way home. The attacks on the colonies were not acts of aggression. They were attempts to communicate, to understand the world. Around him, he killed thousands of people, Admiral Jaeon said angrily. Defended himself against what he saw as attacks, Hannah corrected. Every time someone shot at him, he adapted to protect himself. Every time a fleet approached with weapons charged, He responded the only way he knew how. You trained him to be a soldier, and then you treated him like an enemy. The room fell, silent as the implications sank in. The creature they had been fighting was not an alien invader or a natural monster. It was a human being, twisted by their own experiments and driven to violence by their own fear. Can he be changed back? Yunji asked quietly. I do not know, Hannah admitted. The transformation process was designed to be permanent. But if there is a way to reverse it, or at least to communicate with him, then we need to try. The alternative is to keep fighting a war against someone who used to be one of us. Park looked around the table at the assembled officials. What do you propose, Dr. Kim? I propose we stop trying to kill him and start trying to talk to him, Hannah said. I want to take a small ship and approach him directly. I want to try to reach the human part of him that still exists. That is suicide, Admiral Jaeon said. No, Hannah replied. Suicide is continuing to fight a war we cannot win against an enemy we created. My brother is out there, scared and alone, lashing out at a galaxy that sees him as a monster. If we keep treating him like a monster, he will become one. But if we treat him like a person, like family, then maybe we can save him. The debate continued for hours, but in the end, they had no choice. The combined fleet was in ruins. The creature was approaching the core worlds, and conventional weapons had proven useless. Dr. Hannah Kim was their only hope of finding a solution. That did not end in the destruction of everything they had built. As the meeting ended, Hannah looked around at the faces of the people who had once laughed at her. They were no longer laughing. They were desperate, frightened, and finally willing to listen to the woman who had tried to save them all. The small ship Harmony drifted through space toward the massive form of the Devourer. Dr. Hannah Kim stood on the bridge, watching through the view screen as her brother's transformed body grew larger with each passing hour. Beside her, Captain Yunji checked the ship's systems for the 10th time in as many minutes. All systems are green, Yunji reported. The communication array is ready. The memory banks are loaded with the personal recordings you requested. Hannah nodded without taking her eyes off the view screen. Dr. Kunso, are your mental shields in place? The xenopsychologist adjusted the device on his head. The psychic. Dampeners are active, but I must warn you again. Dr. Kim, if this creature truly has an expanded consciousness, the mental contact could be overwhelming. We might not survive the experience. We might not survive if we fail, Hannah replied. The Devourer is only 3 days away from the Centauri colonies. If we cannot reach my brother, billions of people will die. The ship continued its approach, broadcasting a continuous signal on all frequencies. The message was simple, repeated. In dozens of languages, they came in peace. They wanted to talk. They meant no harm. But as they drew closer to the massive creature, there was no response. Dr. Kim, Captain Yunji said quietly, perhaps we should reconsider. The creature has not acknowledged our signals. It may not be capable of communication. He can hear us, Hannah said with certainty. Ginho always was a good listener. Is just scared. 23 years of being hunted and attacked would make anyone cautious. Through the view screen, they could see the Devourer clearly now. Its 3-kilometer length blocked out the stars behind it. The surface of its body rippled, with movement, organic and mechanical parts flowing together in patterns that hurt to look at. Dozens of tentacles moved slowly through space, each one thick enough to crush their small ship. Contact, Dr. Kyungsoo announced suddenly. I am detecting massive psychic activity from the creature. Its mental signature is unlike anything in our databases. The pattern is almost human, but distorted and amplified beyond normal parameters. That is him, Hannah whispered. That is my brother. The ship shuddered as something touched the hull. Through the view screen, they could see one of the creature's smaller tentacles wrapping around their vessel. The metal of the ship groaned. Under the pressure, but it did not break. It is scanning us, Captain Yenji reported, reading her instruments. Energy patterns indicate it is analyzing our technology, our biology, everything about us. Let it, Hannah said. Jino was always curious about how things worked. He wants to understand what we are before he decides what to do with us. More. Tentacles reached out to touch the ship. The hull creaked and bent, but the creature was being careful not to crush them. Through the metal they could feel vibrations, as if the being was trying to listen to something inside. Begin the memory. Playback, Hannah ordered. Dr. Kumsu activated the communication array. The ship began broadcasting the recordings Hannah had prepared. Audio files of their childhood together, video messages from their parents, pictures of their family home, personal memories that only Ginho would understand. The response was immediate and violent. The creature's grip on the ship tightened, and a wave of psychic energy slammed into their minds. Dr. Kungsu cried out in pain as his mental shields overloaded. Captain Yunji collapsed to her knees, holding her head. Even Hannah staggered under the assault. But within the psychic scream, Hannah heard something else. A voice, distorted and alien, but familiar. It was speaking her childhood nickname, the name only Jinho had ever used for her. Little Star, the voice whispered in her mind. Little Star, is that really you? Yes, Hannah said aloud, tears streaming down her face. It is me, Jinho. I came to find you. The psychic pressure eased, but did not disappear. Through her connection to the creature, Hannah could feel emotions that were almost too large to comprehend. Joy, fear, confusion, and above all, a loneliness. So deep it threatened to drown her mind. I thought you were dead, the voice continued. They told me everyone was dead, that the experiment had failed, and I was the only one left. I have been alone for so long, little star, so very long. I am here now, Hannah said, fighting to stay conscious under the mental pressure. I never stopped looking for you. I never gave up. Look at what I have become. Jinho's voice was filled with anguish. I am a monster. I tried to come home, but they shot at me. Everyone shoots at me. I did not want to hurt them, but they kept attacking, and I had to defend myself. No, Hannah said gently. I know you did not want to hurt anyone. But Jinho, you have to stop. The attacks on the colonies, the destruction of the fleets, people are afraid of you. They think you are a monster because they do not understand what you really are. What am I? Dai asked, desperately. Do not remember how to be human. Any more I feel their thoughts, their fear, their hatred. It hurts, little star. It hurts so much to know that everyone who sees me wants me dead. Through the psychic link, Hannah began to understand the true horror of her brother's existence. The alien artifact had not just changed his body, but it had expanded his consciousness to impossible levels. He could feel the emotions of every living being for light years around. Every time someone looked at him with fear or hatred, he experienced that emotion as if it were his own. You are still my brother, Hannah said firmly. You are still the person who used to read me stories when I was scared. You are still the man who volunteered to risk his life to protect others. The body may be different, but you are still you. But I cannot change back, Ginho said. The transformation is permanent. And there is something else. Little star. Something terrible that you need to know. The psychic connection deepened, and suddenly Hannah could see through her brother's enhanced senses. She could feel the quantum vibrations that he perceived, the energy patterns that extended far beyond normal space. And at the edge of perception, something was coming. What is it? She asked, though. Part of her already knew the answer would terrify her. The ones who made the artifact? Jinho replied. They are coming home. The transformation was not meant to create soldiers. It was meant to create beacons. I have been calling to them for 23 years, and now they have heard me. They are coming to reclaim their galaxy, and there is nothing we can do to stop them. The revelation hit Hannah like a physical blow. Alien artifact had not been abandoned technology. It had been a trap designed to transform any species that found it into unwilling servants. Her brother had not been enhanced, he had been enslaved. How long do we have? She asked. Months, maybe less, Ginho replied. Ships are already entering our galaxy. They bring weapons and creatures that make me look harmless. They will harvest every living world, consume every civilization, turn everything into raw material for their empire. Then we have to warn everyone, Hannah said. We have to prepare. How? Ginho asked. What do you prepare for beings who can reshape matter with their thoughts? How do you fight an enemy that can turn your own weapons against you? I have been trying to find a way to resist them for decades. But I am only one being. We need an army, and we need it soon. We need you, Hannah realized. Your knowledge of their technology, your understanding of how they work. You could teach us how to fight them. I could try, Jinho said uncertainly. But first, we need to convince your people to trust me. They see only the monster, not the man. How do we make them understand? Hannah looked around the bridge at her companions. Dr. Kung-Su was slowly recovering from the psychic contact, while Captain Youngji was getting back to her feet. Both of them had felt the connection, had experienced a glimpse of what Young-Ho truly was. We start small, Hannah said. We show them that you are not their enemy. We prove that you can be trusted. And then we prepare for the real war that is coming. The creature's grip on the ship loosened, and the psychic pressure faded to a manageable level. For the first time in 23 years, Jinho was no longer alone. He had his sister back, and together they would find a way to save the galaxy from the true monsters that were coming home. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike any in recorded history. Representatives from every member species had gathered within hours of receiving Dr. Hannah Kim's urgent message. The great chamber buzzed with nervous energy as delegates whispered among themselves, trying to understand what could be so important that it required immediate attention. Hannah stood at the center of the chamber. No longer the dismissed scientist who had been laughed out of this same room months earlier. Beside her, a holographic display showed real-time images from deep space sensors. The readings were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Honorable delegates, Hannah began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber. 3 days ago, I made contact with the being you call the Devourer. I can now confirm what I told you before. The creature is my brother, transformed by alien technology. But that is not why I have called this emergency session. She gestured to the display, which showed energy readings from the edge of the galaxy. These readings were taken by our most distant sensor stations 12 hours ago. What you are seeing is the arrival of a fleet from the Andromeda Galaxy. A fleet that is coming here with the intention of harvesting every living world in our galaxy. Chamber erupted in shocked voices. Ambassador Taman rose from his seat, his blue scales dark with concern. Dr. Kim, are you certain of these readings? How do you know the intentions of these ships? Because my brother told me, Hannah replied. The alien artifact that transformed him was not abandoned technology. It was a beacon designed to call its creators home. For 23 years, Jinho has been unconsciously broadcasting our location to the Andromedans. They are coming to collect what they believe belongs to them. Admiral Jaeon leaned forward. How many ships are we talking about? Hannah's expression was grim. Current scans show over 10,000 vessels of unknown design. Each one is larger than our biggest dreadnoughts. And that is just the advance fleet. Intelligence suggests the main invasion force is still months away. The display changed to show detailed scans of the alien ships. They were unlike anything. In galactic databases, organic curves blended with geometric patterns, creating vessels that seemed to grow rather than be built. Energy readings suggested technology far beyond anything the galaxy possessed. What do these Andromedans want? Asked Speaker Bora of the Vegan Collective. Everything, Hannah replied. According to my brother's memories, they are an ancient civilization that views other galaxies as resource pools. They seed worlds with artifacts like the one that transformed Ginho, then return to harvest the results. Every species, every technology, every biological innovation becomes part of their collective. Director Minho Park stood up from the human delegation. Dr. Kim, with respect, how can we trust information from a creature that has killed thousands of our people? Because that creature is the only reason any of you are still alive, Hannah replied sharply. Every attack my brother made was not random destruction. He was gathering intelligence, learning about our defenses, our technology, our capabilities. He was preparing to help us fight the Andromedans. She activated another display showing the pattern of the Devourer's attacks over the past months. Look at the targets he chose. Military installations, research facilities, fleet positions. He was mapping our defenses. The ships he destroyed were not random casualties. He was studying their weaknesses so he could teach us how to build better ones. You are asking us to believe that the monster was trying to help us? Ambassador Taman asked. I am asking you to believe that my brother, despite what was done to him, is still human enough to want to save his home, Hannah replied. But we are running out of time. The Andromedan advance fleet will reach our outer colonies in 6 weeks. We need to start preparing now. The chamber fell silent as the magnitude of the threat became clear. They had spent months fighting what they thought was their greatest enemy, only to learn that the real enemy was still coming. Captain Yunji stepped forward from her position near the chamber wall. Dr. Kim, what do you propose we do? Our combined fleets could not defeat a single transformed human. How can we hope to fight an entire invasion force? We start by understanding their technology, Hannah said. My brother has knowledge of their capabilities, their weapons, their tactics. He can teach us how to adapt our defenses, how to modify our weapons to be effective against them. And we are supposed to trust this creature with our military secrets? Admiral Jayan asked. You are supposed to trust your own survival instincts, Hannah replied. The Andromedans do not take prisoners. They do not negotiate, consume everything in their path, and move on to the next galaxy. It's our only chances to work together, and that includes working with my brother. Dr. Kung-Su, who had remained silent until now, activated his portable display. I can confirm Dr. Kim's assessment. During our psychic contact with the creature, I was able to scan its memory patterns. The knowledge it possesses of Andromedan technology is vast and detailed. It could take our scientists years to understand even a fraction of what it knows. Debate continued for hours, but gradually the reality of their situation became undeniable. The sensor readings were confirmed by multiple sources. The alien fleet was real, it was massive, and it was coming toward them with clear, hostile intent. What specific help can your brother provide? Speaker Bora asked finally. Hannah consulted her notes. First, he can help us understand Andromedan biotechnology. Their ships and weapons are living things that can adapt and evolve during combat. Traditional tactics will be useless against them. Second, he can teach us to modify our own technology to counter their advantages. And third, he knows their weaknesses. They have weaknesses. Admiral Jayon asked hopefully. Every species has weaknesses, Hannah replied. The Andromedans are ancient and powerful, but they are also overconfident. They have been unopposed for so long that they have become predictable. My brother believes that with the right preparations, we can surprise them. The vote, when it finally came, was closer than Hannah had hoped. Many delegates were still uncomfortable with the idea of working with the creature that had terrorized their space. Us. But fear of the greater threat won out over fear of the known one. Motion carried, Ambassador Taman announced. The Galactic Council authorizes Dr. Kim to work with the creature known as the Devourer to prepare our defenses against the Andromedan invasion. All member species are directed to provide full cooperation and resources. As the session ended and delegates began filing out, Hannah felt a mixture of relief and dread. They had won the first battle, convincing the galaxy to work together. But the real war was still coming, and she was not sure they had enough time. To prepare, Captain Yunji approached her as the chamber emptied. Dr. Kim, where do we start? How do we prepare for an enemy we know nothing about? We start by giving my brother what he needs most, Hannah replied. A reason to trust that the galaxy will accept him as more than just a weapon. He has been alone. For 23 years, fighting a war that no one else even knew existed. Now he needs to know that he is not alone anymore. And if he decides that helping us is not worth the risk, Yunji asked. Hannah looked up at the dome of stars above the chamber. Somewhere out there, her brother waited in the darkness, carrying knowledge that could save or doom them all. Then we will have to face the Andromedans without him, she said quietly. And we will lose everything. The preparations began immediately. Research stations across the galaxy started working around the clock to understand Andromedan technology. Military planners began developing new strategies based on Jinho's intelligence. And deep in space, the Devourer began its journey toward the core worlds, no longer as an enemy, but as their most unlikely ally. The real war was about to begin, and the fate of 2 galaxies hung in the balance. The battle for the Milky Way began at the edge of known space. where the Andromedon advance fleet encountered the first line of galactic defenses. Dr. Hannah. Kim watched the engagement from the command ship Unity, her heart pounding as she saw the enemy vessels for the first time. They were even more terrifying than the sensor readings had suggested. The Andromedan ships moved like living things, their hulls flowing and shifting as they adapted to incoming fire. Each vessel was unique, as if grown rather than built, with organic weapons that fired streams of living matter instead of energy beams. "First contact in 30 seconds, Admiral J.N. announced from the bridge. "All ships, remember the new protocols. Fire in coordinated bursts, then change frequencies immediately." The modifications to their weapons had taken weeks to complete. Working from knowledge that Ginho had shared through their psychic link, traditional energy weapons had been upgraded with adaptive frequency modulators. Kinetic weapons now used ammunition designed to disrupt organic matter. Every ship carried new shield generators that could shift their defensive patterns in real time. But even with these improvements, Hannah knew they were outmatched. The Andromedan fleet outnumbered them 10-1, and each enemy ship was more advanced than anything the galaxy had ever built. "Incoming transmission from the Devourer," Captain Yunji reported. "Your brother wants to speak with you." Hannah activated her personal communicator, feeling the familiar touch of Jinho's consciousness against her mind. Over the past weeks, their psychic connection had grown stronger, allowing them to share thoughts and emotions across vast distances. "Little star?" Ginho's voice whispered in her mind. "The time has come." I can feel the Andromedon commanders thinking. They're confident this will be an easy victory. They do not expect us to fight back effectively. Are you ready? Hannah asked silently. "I have been ready for 23 years, he replied. "But Hannah, you need to understand something. What I am about to do will change me forever. The process required to reverse my transformation while maintaining my enhanced abilities. It might destroy what is left of my human consciousness." Hannah felt tears welling up in her eyes. "There has to be another way." "There is not," Ginho said gently. "The Andromedans must be stopped, and I am the only one who knows how to do it. But I need you to promise me something. If I survive this, but lose myself in the process, if I become something that is truly monstrous, you must be the one to stop me." "I cannot," Hannah whispered. "You must," Ginho replied firmly. "I will not become a weapon for them to use against our galaxy. Promise me, little star." Through their connection, Hannah could feel her brother's determination and his love for her. After a long moment, she nodded. "I promise." The first exchange of fire lit up the void between the fleets. The galactic forces performed better than expected, their modified weapons punching through Andromedan defenses that had seemed impenetrable. But the enemy adapted quickly, their organic hulls shifting to counter each new attack. "We are holding them," Admiral J.N. reported, "but barely. We need the Devourer to make its move soon." Ginho's massive form accelerated toward the center of the Andromedon fleet, drawing fire from dozens of enemy ships. But instead of defending himself as he had done in previous battles, he began to change. My biomechanical hull started to glow with strange energy patterns that Hannah recognized from the research files. "He is using the reversal process, Doctor," Kung-Su said, monitoring the readings from his instruments. "The alien technology in his body is being reprogrammed, turned against its original design." Through their psychic link, Hannah felt her brother's pain as his body began to tear itself apart at the molecular level. The process was reversing his transformation, but not to make him human again. Instead, it was turning him into something that could destroy the Andromedon technology from within. "The enemy fleet is responding," Captain Yunji called out. "Multiple ships are converging on the Devourer's position." But it was too late. Jinho's body exploded outward in a wave of energy that washed over the Andromedan fleet. Where the wave touched their ships, the organic hulls began to dissolve. Weapons systems failed as their biological components turned against themselves. The living computers that controlled the vessels started to shut down one by one. "It worked, Admiral," Jae-Yan said in amazement. "The enemy fleet is dead in space." But Hannah was not celebrating. Through their psychic connection, she could feel Jinho fading. The reversal process had worked, but at a terrible cost. Her brother's consciousness was being consumed by the very energy he had unleashed. "Ginho," she called out desperately. "Stay with me, please, stay with me." I am here, his voice replied, but it was weaker now, distant. The fleet has stopped, but this is only the beginning. The main invasion force will be here soon, and they will be prepared for what I did. You need to be ready. You will be, Hannah promised. But you need to come home now. The doctors can help you. They can stabilize your condition. No, Jinho said sadly. I can feel what I am becoming. The process is irreversible. I'm turning into pure energy, little star. I will not have long before I lose all connection to human thought. Through the view screen, Hannah could see her brother's form beginning to dissolve into streams of light. The devourer was breaking apart, but not from damage. It was transcending physical form entirely. Listen to me carefully, Jinho continued. The Andromedans will return with ships designed to resist the weapon I used. But they have a weakness they do not know about. Their entire civilization is connected through a quantum network that spans their galaxy. If you can find a way to access that network, you can turn their own technology against them. How do we access it? Hannah asked. We already have the key, Jinho replied. The artifact that transformed me, it contains the access codes. Dr. Kunsu can extract them from my memories before I fade completely. Use them wisely, little star. Use them to save our home. The psychic connection began to weaken as Jinho's physical form completely dissolved into energy. But in those final moments, Hannah felt something she had not expected. Peace, for the first time in 23 years. Her brother was free from pain, free from the isolation that had tormented him. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for coming home. Thank you for never giving up on me, Jinho replied, his voice now barely a whisper in her mind. Tell them I was human until the end. Tell them I chose to save them. The connection faded, leaving Hannah alone with her grief and her memories. But around her, the work of saving the galaxy continued. Dr. Kyung-soo was already extracting the quantum access codes from the psychic residue of Jinho's consciousness. Admiral Jaeon was coordinating the cleanup of the disabled Andromedan ships. Captain Yoonji was preparing reports for the Galactic Council. The first battle was won, but the war was far from over. The main Andromedan invasion force would arrive within months, and when they did, they would face a galaxy that had learned to fight back. They would face beings who had discovered that sometimes the greatest weapons were not built in factories or grown in laboratories. Sometimes the greatest weapons were the love between siblings and the courage to sacrifice everything for those who mattered most. As the Unity began its journey back to the core worlds, Hannah looked out at the stars and made a silent promise to her brother's memory. She would use the knowledge he had given them. She would prepare the galaxy for the battles to come. And she would make sure that everyone remembered the human who had become a monster so that he could die a hero. The Andromedan War had begun, but humanity had already shown the galaxy something that their enemies did not understand. They had shown that even in the darkest moments, even when all hope seemed lost, there was always someone willing to fight for those they loved. And that, more than any weapon or technology, was what would ultimately save them all.